Qualified immunity, says Professor Schwartz, isn't necessary to protect the police.
Union officials and other defenders of qualified immunity use two talking points repeatedly in defending the doctrine: that officers will be bankrupted if qualified immunity goes away, and that good officers who make reasonable mistakes will be found liable. And neither of those things are true, because officers virtually never pay as a consequence of indemnification agreements.
While we were so engrossed with the election, SCOTUS issued a ruling that no one saw coming, and it concerned qualified immunity. You know, that's a doctrine that gives cops and correctional officers a legal pass for violating our rights. Well, SCOTUS's ruling may have went under the radar, but it and how it went down could suggest the beginning of the end for qualified immunity. I'm attorney Adrienne Lawrence, and this is Overruled. Welcome to TYT Overruled, where you get to be the judge. Our case of the day concerns a Supreme Court ruling in Taylor v. Riojas, which was issued the day before the 2020 presidential election and largely went under the radar, despite being kind of a big deal. So here are the three things you need to know about this pivotal ruling that undermines qualified immunity. First, in the Taylor case, SCOTUS held that a prison guard can't hide behind qualified immunity, where a reasonable guard would have known that an inmate's circumstances were cruel and unusual. Here's the backstory. Texas inmate Trent Taylor was forced to spend 6 days naked in freezing cold cells. The first was smeared with feces from previous inmates, and the second cell was overflowing with sewage, such that Taylor had to sleep in a pool of it. That is gross. Now, Taylor sued the guards, claiming his living conditions were cruel and unusual under the 8th Amendment. The Fifth Circuit said the guards couldn't be sued due to qualified immunity. SCOTUS disagreed, ruling that qualified immunity does not protect a guard that acts unreasonably under the circumstances. This is not what you'd expect from a conservative-leaning court, right? Second, this is the most shocking part of it. The ruling was 7-1. Justice Thomas was the lone dissenter, and Barrett wasn't hearing cases yet. That means Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Roberts all sided with the inmate. Also, the court didn't even invite the parties to have oral argument or to submit briefing on the merits. This conservative court ruled for the inmate on the petition alone. Wow, that is so rare. Why? Well, I assume that there were no disputes about the conditions. There was no emergency, definitely, for the situation. We know that. Also, the guards knew about the situation. There was even testimony that the guard said something to the effect of that they hoped Taylor had a long weekend and froze in those cells. The justices sent the case back to the lower court to allow Taylor's lawsuit to go ahead and move forward. So what does this ruling suggest? That brings me to my third point. Third, SCOTUS's response to Taylor's lawsuit suggests a few things. 4 that come to mind. Law enforcement authorities are so bold about their qualified immunity that they're not even necessarily lying in their filings anymore. These guards had no issue letting the world know how they mistreated Taylor because they didn't think the courts would do anything about it. Qualified immunity is not impenetrable. With the public push to end the doctrine, SCOTUS recognizes that the doctrine's illegitimacy impacts how our society views the courts. And law enforcement shouldn't get a free pass to violate our rights. Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Roberts just may have some common sense after all. Even though they didn't take this opportunity to eradicate qualified immunity, the decision clearly was an easy one for them. And lastly, SCOTUS's response to Taylor's lawsuit really suggests that Justice Thomas always is and always will be trash. That's it. Those are the 3 things you need to know about the SCOTUS ruling that went under the radar due to Election Day. So what do you think? Will SCOTUS continue to dismantle qualified immunity? Who knows? You let me know your thoughts below. Hit me up on Twitter using the hashtag TYTOverruled and follow us for more. Catch you next time.